Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Decentralized Voices podcast. My name is Daria, and I'm happy to welcome a very special guest, Dima Buterin, entrepreneur, philosopher, and lifelong learner. Many know him as the father of Ethereum's co-creator, Vitalik Buterin. But Dima's story stands powerfully on its own. From his early ventures in software to his deep reflections on freedom and human potential, Dima brings a rare combination of tech curiosity and personal growth. Hi, Dima. I'm happy to see you.
Hi, Dasha. Good to see you.
It's a pleasure to have you today. And in this episode, we'll discuss the challenges of modern society and the evolution of technology, Dima's support for Ukraine, and his vision of freedom and responsibility. Enjoy this episode and don't forget to share it with your friends. Dima, a lot of people in the crypto and tech world know your name, but maybe not everyone knows what you're actually focused these days. You like to make a joke that you're on retirement, but can you share what's really capturing your attention these days?
Sure. It's not a joke. I have been retired for a while, so I have no focus. I'm totally unfocused, and whatever captures my attention captures my attention. Every day is different. I took a walk this morning, and what was very interesting to me is the beautiful colors of the fall: yellow, orange, red, and some green. So that's beautiful. And then there's social media and all kinds of news, and there's my cat, and then there are people important to me. So, and there are AI developments. There's so much stuff all the time.
I know that you grew in the Soviet Union and then moved to Canada. How did that journey shape your understanding of freedom and control and in comparison of your past and today's life?
I, I do live in Canada, in Toronto. Been living here for 26 years, almost as long as I have lived in Russia before that, for 27 years. Growing up in the Soviet Union, it was a very centralized society with a lot of hypocrisy, if you will, and a lot of propaganda, right? And people were not, everybody was just pretending. There was that famous joke that we pretend to work and they pretend to pay us. So yeah, that's kind of like probably affected my early views on what freedom is and what is unfreedom. It was actually very interesting when I moved to Canada to kind of get the sense that there is much less control, over population. Just to give you a little silly example, right? Like as I drive, it's probably been about 10 years since I have talked to a traffic cop here in Canada because, I drive, I don't do anything crazy and they don't stop me and I'm happy not to talk to them, right? Things like that, right? And then the Soviet Union, there were all these rules like this is your residence permit. And, after you study in the university, then you're supposed to go there and all of that stuff. Yeah. And can this changing too? Every society is changing too. But all in all, I find it to be much more peaceful and open society. And yeah, I still enjoy it here after 26 years. No plans to move. I have a lot of my, pretty much all of my relatives here except for Vitalik, who is traveling, and my friends and my kids and everything.
You've been very vocal in supporting Ukraine since the full-scale invasion. So, what motivates you, and why the global crypto community tries to not see the elephant in the room? I mean, not paying too much attention to what's happening and the danger that can affect more people than expected.
I actually did not visit Kiev. I haven't been to Ukraine since my early adulthood. So, so that's many decades ago. I would love to, but I don't know if I'm brave enough compared to Vitalik or have a reason important enough for me to go right now during the war. But for me, it's kind of pretty simple. It's a very simple issue of violence versus kindness, right versus wrong. So those very obvious to Vitalik too. Observing Russia over the last 26 years and kind of seeing how it's descended into this crazy dictatorship where oppositioners jailed and killed, and then it kind of started going crazy, and first it annexed Crimea in Ukraine, right? And it was very fascinating for me to look at some of their people that I knew in Russia, and they're like, oh, No, we have Crimean guys. Are you crazy? Like, your country just attacked another country and took some of its land. And how can that be accepted and celebrated? In my universe, that's kind of crazy. And then all of the other things that unfolded later on, right, from I guess 2014 onward, and eventually culminated in this full-blown invasion. I know Vitalik has done a lot to support Ukraine in many different ways, supporting, the crypto community, donating money to different initiatives. And I try to support in some small ways that I can. And I have lots of friends in Ukraine. I've made some small, many different donations to different causes. And even there's a simple thing, just stating my own position, right? Because I
Yeah.
also see a lot of people very confused about this topic, especially people who have no clue about Ukraine or Russia, and then they read some articles or watch some crazy YouTube videos, and then they have these crazy claims. So yeah, for me, it's kind of very simple. It's a matter of one country run by a dictator who attacked another country. So for me, it's a given that every thinking person should be supporting Ukraine in small, big ways, the way we can, and hopefully stop this as soon as possible. It's obviously a very painful and sensitive topic, and then people end up projecting a lot of their own fears and their own criticisms of other unrelated topics. Like, sometimes people talk to me, well, but US did this to Iraq and Afghanistan. Like, yeah, so they were doing stupid things. Does it mean that other people should be doing stupid things?
Yeah, thank you very much for your position. Ukraine showed the world how crypto can help nation survive, especially in like some tough times at the beginning of invasion. I was also involved in some big crypto donation initiatives and saw the power of alternative payment systems. What lessons do you think the global community should take from digital asset support, humanitarian efforts in Ukraine? And did you find something new in how people used crypto in such crisis moments?
Technology is a tool, and it's a wonderful tool. And any technology can be used for good and can be used for bad, right? So definitely, I have seen how crypto has enabled fundraising, and definitely enabled me to support various causes and humans in Ukraine over the last 2 years. But then also, right, crypto have been used by Russia to evade sanctions and all kinds of stuff. By itself, I
Yeah.
think it's smart people kind of often hope to find a silver bullet in a particular thing, like whether it be in crypto or not, right? Again, it's a tool. It's a very powerful technology, right, and can be used for good. And many people are using it for good for many things, and there are many awesome aspects of that. But then it's also used by other people for something that we consider to be bad. Yeah, I don't know if I have any deeper
Uh-huh.
insights into that.
You have and the front row seat to Ethereum's journey, and not like just observer or supporter, but also as Vitalik's father. Where do you and Vitalik align in your vision on Ethereum, and where do you see things differently? If you had any discussions in terms of this.
We have very different roles on that, right? He's the founder of Ethereum, and he's been the leader of that
Yes,
movement for
sure.
the last 12 years, I guess. And I am just an observer sitting aside and looking at things from afar. And sometimes I share my ideas and observations with him. But at the end of the day, it's the call of Ethereum community, and obviously he's an important part of the community. I am very much aligned with the Ethereum community, right? Because all in all, crypto is powerful technology, right? And Bitcoin was the first one, and it was awesome. It still is. It's powerful, and it's much simpler than Ethereum, much less ambitious, if you will, easier for people to understand, even though it is a very complex technology. But also, I see a lot of people kind of looking at Bitcoin. The energy of that movement, a lot of people, is really out of fear, and Ethereum's energy are different. It's more like we have this wonderful new tech that can enable humanity to better coordinate, better interact, better, become better at doing many different things. So let's keep evolving that, right? It's a very different paradigm. And that resonates with me a lot. So I don't know if I ever come across Vitalik from time to time writes his visionary posts about where Ethereum should be going. And I cannot remember any instances where I would disagree with him on the level, right? I do know that from time to time, maybe you would have different views on how much Ethereum Foundation, let's say, should be focusing on not just building the best tech, but on things like communication, on business reach out. But that's not just my perspective. Right? Ethereum Foundation got a bunch of criticism over the years from the community, and they have been actually making, especially in the last year, some really big changes, and I'm very happy to see that. And I do know that big changes take time. I do know that it's also it's difficult to make those kind of changes, right? Because again, sometimes people from afar, they say, "Oh, Vitalik is running Ethereum and all that." It's not really that. It's a very non-authoritarian, approach, if you will. And Vitalik does have his opinions, and his opinions respected by many people. But also, it is one important aspect of the community is a constant dialogue, right? So people constantly post critiques and ideas and all of that, and Vitalik does not shy away from that, right? So and that's I appreciate it a lot. That the spirit of the Ethereum community is not to try to ignore the issues or lie about them or whatever, right? It's kind of reminds me of Russia, right? So it's constantly,
Yeah,
and that's what I
everything is
have
fine.
a lot of hypocrisy and a constant attempt to deflect the issue, right? And that's not the case, in Ethereum community, and that's what I appreciate about it. It's about open dialogue, open discussion of issues, because no technology is ever perfect, right? And I think that's for Bitcoin, that's its strength, but also its weakness, that it's a great technology, but it's kind of ossified. Like, it's awesome right now. I don't know if it will be able to deal with the challenges of evolving world in the next 10 years. And I feel very confident to say that sure will be, because I can see how it keeps evolving, how it keeps, experimenting and doing different things, and new technologies come up. Like in the last few years, we've seen this exponential growth and the capabilities of ZK cryptography, and Ethereum's been pioneering and implementing those technologies, and that's been enabling new frontiers for Ethereum blockchain. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Thanks for such a great answer, because my next question actually was about the latest discussions in the Ethereum community, and some builders say they feel unheard or disconnected. Probably you saw a lot of posts, comments, and everything.
I've been looking at what's happening in the community for those 12 years. It's not something, there's always dissent, and criticism, and there's evolution. And I actually think that in the last little while, especially in the last year, Ethereum has become even better at handling that, at having open dialogues and not trying to sweep things under the rug and so on. And I think that both Vitalik has been stepping up, and some new leadership from people like Mas and other people in the Ethereum community, they've been actively supporting and maintaining those core values of the community, that open discussions. I feel that it's always been the case, and so I don't see some kind of acute problem. I see this as an ongoing important aspect of how the whole Ethereum community works.
I want to ask you about the progress. A historian and Nobel Prize holder, Joel Mokyr, said that progress depends on societies being open to new ideas and willing to change. So, when you look at today's blockchain and decentralized communities, do you think we're truly open to new ideas, or we are keep circling around something that stops us from this change?
Yeah, society is an abstraction, because societies consist of humans, and there are different humans, and some people are very conservative, and some people are much more open. And even if you take a particular human, we are very different in our openness, if you will, at different times and different moments, right? That's always the case. It's just the nature of how human brain works. On the one hand, we have this fear, and we want to find safety, and we want to find some kind of continuity and so on. and sometimes we over bias on that, and then sometimes we also have our natural curiosity and openness. And for me personally, curiosity has always been a very strong energy, and that it still is. And you were asking me about things I do. I would say that right now that I'm not running any business projects and stuff like that, I would say that curiosity is probably the strongest energy driving me forward. It's not like somebody can say, well, our society should be more open or not, because our society is an abstraction which is trying to describe millions, billions humans, right? And then all of the humans, if you take a particular human, the reason that particular human is more conservative or scared or more open and curious is because of their environment, because of their genetics, because of what's currently happening and so on. So I think that everything that is happening is a natural outcome of everything that happened. So the question is kind of like, I don't believe in the verb should. I believe that things are the way they are, but they only the way they are right now, and then they constantly change. And this is the unstoppable flow of life. It includes all of it, includes our struggles and fears and sickness and despair and joy and curiosity and all of this stuff.
In the world of digital and dematerialized technologies, progress is hard to measure, and a lot of things are going beyond GDP or any other economic metrics. So, from your point of view, how should we measure success in decentralized systems? What really counts beyond traditional metrics like money?
So we will keep experimenting. And, GDP is one of many ways, right? And you've seen many other attempts to measure it. Like, for example, the index of happiness in different countries, right? The index of corruption, the index of the Gini coefficient, income, in so many ways, right? So it's not like we can look at the society, it's infinitely complex system of millions of humans, and they all moving in different directions and constantly shifting emotions and all of that. We can look at anything and everything that happens, and even if we look at the horrible situation that Ukraine is in, right? Like it's horrible, it's unjust, and it's very painful. And you know, out of this, what possibly can happen, and I hope that is happening, that Ukraine is getting stronger. There are many other things that are happening that we can say are good, and people are dying, and that's horrible. So it's not like, again, even if we take this particular situation by itself, it's very complex.
What do you think the next generation needs to learn or unlearn to really thrive in a world shaped by decentralization or artificial intelligence?
Yeah, it's some lots of thoughts on that, right? And one of the things I say that in crypto, as people learn to use crypto, one of their big challenges is crypto gives us a lot more freedom, but also inevitably more responsibility. If you own your keys, and let's say not your keys, not your money, right? And the point is like, okay, it is your money, awesome, right? But then you can make a mistake, you can click on the wrong link, and then all your money is gone. So, and a lot of us are not ready for that, right? And I think that it's a really good indication of that is also how often we humans hope to find some kind of powerful human that will finally take care of us, right? And you can look at Russia and you can see how they kind of hope that this wise and strong leader Putin will make them happy and successful, the country and all that. And look at what actually happened, right? But that intrinsic drive of a human being, that somebody, it's kind of like psychologically this idea of mommy and daddy, like mommy and daddy will finally take care of us, and we will be peace and safe and comfortable and whatnot. And I say, no, you will not. That's not how this world works. You will not find safety. You will not find comfort, and sometimes you will feel safe, sometimes you will feel comfortable, and a lot of the time you will not, right? In terms of AI, I think that it is such a huge enabler, and it's such a huge monkey wrench in the whole workings of our society, of the world, of everything, right? It's impossible to predict how it will affect us. I think that we will see some crazy, unfathomable changes in many areas of what's happening. And I think that also it's enabling, like, for example, my closest friend, his name is also Dima. He's been working recently on a new tech startup, and he is a very seasoned IT leader and all of that. And he's very happy that now, instead of building a team and, hiring people, all of that, he can actually build something very substantial on his own using AI tools, right? So I think that this whole paradigm that we won't have to, a particular human can basically now have an army of very smart helpers that can enable them to build stuff, to create stuff. And as a tiny example, if you will, I'm an analytical person with a lot of thinking and all of that. And I've never been creative, if you will, until a few years ago, because I've never had the creative skills. I never had an ability to express my creativity. And then as all of those generative AI tools came to the market, I really enjoy playing with them and creating music, creating images, creating videos, and expressing my creativity. So I think this is ushering in a new era when every human on Earth is now able to access all of this amazing knowledge that we used to just spend so many years in school, and those amazing AI agent helpers that can help you write a business plan and promote the business and do many things. So I think it's exciting time, and it's also a very scary time, and totally unpredictable and totally unknowable and uncontrollable. And people will have 1 million different predictions and forecasts about how it's going to go, and nobody has a clue.
Yeah, that's right. Nobody has a clue, but everything develops super fast, and probably it's the next stage of human development, and we'll see how everything goes in a few next years. I'm sure that people will handle this and learn to live with this together in like one
Maybe.
symbiosis. Uh,
Maybe.
maybe not.
I,
Knows.
as a young adult, I used to love reading about all of this, about singularity and a lot of what's called hard sci-fi, where people discussed a lot of these topics, and it's been very interesting to read all of that, and now to actually see how many of the concepts that people have been dreaming about are coming to life, and from pure AI to robotics to many other things, and crypto money and all of that. And yeah, so exciting times, and again, very unpredictable and very scary for a lot of humans. One issue that maybe is important to mention is mental health, right? Because human brain has not evolved
Yeah.
to live in an environment with this much information, this much change, this much communication, all of that, right? So that's why we see in such a rise in all kinds of issues. People are struggling with depression and anxiety and all kinds of things, and there will be even more of that, right? So I think that this will be a really important aspect of what we have to deal with.
Yeah, I guess it's the biggest challenge. And I personally see decentralized systems as some kind of instrument that potentially can help control the AI. Not control, but like be the power that can work together with AI. And AI is centralized by a few companies now. So we'll see how it works.
Yeah.
You have a rich experience in your own business, and you see how Ethereum develops and other businesses around you. So could you give few principles for builders that can be applied?
I'll give you some reflections, because I don't really believe in advice. It's kind of like nice to say like, you should be doing this, but the question is like, will you be doing this? Of course, what different people will tell you to do, and some people you consider important. Dima will tell you this, but then Elon Musk says this, and then this guy says this, and then you will end up doing something. But my reflections on entrepreneurship, I think that more humans will become entrepreneurial going forward, right? Because there is more enablement of each human to do more. That's kind of one thing, one thought. Another thought I have is that what we achieve in business is a reflection of our personal values, of our fears, of our emotions, of our mental health. So it's all foundational there. There are a lot of awesome books on how to build businesses and structure businesses and achieve blah, blah, blah. But your personal psychology, your personal emotional makeup will be the biggest determinant of what's happening with your business. That's another thought. Another thought is a successful business is very end of the day, it's based on a very simple concept, is that you have to find a problem that many other humans have, and then you have to develop a good solution for them. And that's it, right? And quite often I've seen so many businesses fail because they just develop abstract solutions which don't really correspond to any real world problems, and actually smart people are very prone to that. They build very complex abstract models of humanity, and and then they build some abstract solutions which are very complex, but they don't really reflect their foundational things of us humans. And the related aspect of this is that also means that it will be very hard for you to build like successful business in an area where you don't really understand the problem itself, right? So
Yeah.
if on the one hand you can bring some new ideas and vision into some stale industries, maybe possibly, right? But again, like until and unless you deeply understand their problem, and the problem at its basic human roots, based on simple human foundational things. Again, humans want to survive. Humans want to procreate. Those are the foundational drives in every human organism, right? So we want to find comfort. We want to be liked. We want to feel good and all of this stuff, right? So, and if you're defining the problem in those very simple psychological terms, but you are trying to sell your solution in a very abstract level, like, oh, our system has the most advanced ZK start proofs and blah, blah, blah. So you kind of have to
Yeah.
start on a much more level. Yeah. So some of those reflections.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with you. I gave a talk about building trust in a trustless world at ETC and a few other conferences. And I mentioned that like crypto community likes to mention all these buzzwords and explaining nothing about their products and their idea behind it. So yeah, I
Why
totally
people
agree
should
with you
care.
that people should be
Yeah.
humans. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Like,
Everything you
for
build.
me, the whole idea of decentralized systems is that we finally developed a somewhat better model, because centralized system is typically built on an assumption that you build this complex, powerful tech system, and then it's centralized, and there are some smart, good people who control that, and they will, do something good for everybody else. Well, you know what? There are no such thing as a smart, well-meaning people as a static thing, if you will. Those people will have different emotions. They might go crazy. They might get corrupted. They might have whatever. They might burn out or whatever. The centralized systems are built on a better assumption. It's an assumption that everybody will kind of try from time to time, maybe to cheat and lie. Oh no, my balance is this, and they will try to send, duplicate transactions and whatnot. The system can deal with that, right? So it's really important for us to use better assumptions about humans and not to idealize, not to simplify the world, right? Because again, if we look at ourselves, we are full of inconsistencies and conflicts and desires and fears, and we have to build for that.
I agree with you. More empathy and more understanding of others gives your business more power to create something meaningful and people would use. Dima, it was the last question to you, and I'm happy to have you on Decentralized Voices. It was a pleasure to host you. I'm sure that our listeners and viewers of this episode on YouTube will love it and will learn a lot of things from your experience.
Thank you, Dasha. It was good to talk to you.
Guys, I leave the link to Dima's profile under this episode. You can follow him and see what's happening in his life and also learn from him. Thanks everyone for attention and see you in the next episode. Bye.